In the previous video, Suho discovered that his father is largely to blame for what influenced his best friend to take his own life. When Seo-jun went looking for him, the two boys ended up in an accident. At night, Ju-kyung tries to call her boyfriend, but his cell phone is turned off. So the protagonist decides to end this anguish she has been feeling and goes to Soo-jin's house to tell her friend the truth. Soo-jin says that it's not okay because it's uncomfortable for her, but the girl explains that she's had these feelings for Suho other times, and they didn't last long. Soo-jin still hugs her friend and tries to comfort her by saying that she didn't do anything wrong. At home, Ju-kyung tries to call her boyfriend again, but her phone is still off. She starts to think that the boy is very upset. Afterwards, the girl decides to go to the courtyard of her house to refresh her mind a little and ends up finding her sister doing the same. Hee-kyung asks if the protagonist is Suho's friend and tells her about the accident. In the next scene, we see Suho's father with his right-hand man. The man asks his employee to explain what Hee-kyung was talking about. And his employee says that he asked the journalist to do that story about Se-yeon so that she could cover the scandal with the actress. Suho's father is furious, even more so after realizing that, in addition to being guilty of what the boy did to himself, the company also stole his music. Meanwhile, Ju-kyung arrived at the boys' hospital room, went to the bed where one was sleeping, and started crying. Suddenly, Suho enters the room in a wheelchair without understanding why she is saying her name and crying on Seo-jun's bed. When the protagonist realizes that her beloved is better than she thought, she is relieved. But the two need to disguise themselves, as Ju-kyung is without makeup, so Suho tells Seo-jun that the girl is his cousin. The boy did not answer the protagonist's calls, as her cell phone ended up being damaged in the accident. When the two are alone, they make peace, and those endless fights seem like they will calm down now. Later, Seo-jun tells Suho that the boy's father thinks he is Leo, but he is actually Suho. The boy doesn't understand how the man didn't suspect, and his son made a room at home with several instruments and devices to compose music. The next day, Soo-jin seems to be normal in relation to Ju-kyung, and the two end up using the gift that the protagonist's friend had bought for them. Ju-kyung ends up letting slip that Suho is in the hospital, and Soo-jin seems like a different person at the moment. Her friend asks why she didn't tell him about it before and then says that she will hand over her activity to a teacher. Suho's father visits him a few times in the hospital, but the boy always tells him that he doesn't want him there and asks him to leave. If their relationship was already complicated before, it has now multiplied. Returning to Soo-jin, a girl from Ju-kyung's old school is transferred to the one she studies now. This is the girl that the protagonist believed was her friend. However, she never helped her in relation to the bullies, so on the contrary, sometimes I even filmed what the girls did. Soo-jin ends up becoming interested in the girl. In the room of our injured little angels, we see that Suho has always taken care of those she cares about, and Seo-jun's mother let it slip that the boy visited her when she was hospitalized. Later, when the woman is no longer in the room with the two of them, Seo-jun really needs to go to the bathroom, and Suho helps him with that, certainly something that no one else could know. Meanwhile, the bullies from the protagonist's old school are at the gate of the girl's new school looking for Seo-jun. When they see Hae-min, they start to bother her. It seems that the girl reported them to her old school and was transferred by that. The bullies then say that they will leave her alone if the girl finds out if Ju-kyung is dating Seo-jun. Soo-jin goes to visit Suho and says that his father called her, asking her to be the boy's caretaker, so Soo-jin took several things for him. Seo-jun asks the girl why she came alone, since she and Ju-kyung are best friends and do everything together. When Soo-jin asks if the boy was waiting for her, Seo-jun says she should ask Suho. As soon as the girl leaves the room, she goes to the bathroom and starts washing her hands frantically. In the next scene, we see Hee-kyung on a date with the teacher at the coffee shop where the protagonist works. The two are unable to enjoy the date much because, when they discover that the girl works there, they hide. The man is afraid that Ju-kyung will change the way he sees him after discovering that he is dating his sister, or that the teachers will start to think he favors her at school. And Hee-kyung is surprised to see her little sister dedicating herself to this, but she doesn't understand why, so Jun-woon suggests that it must be to pay for the makeup course that Ju-kyung had planned to take to work in the field. Your loved one is surprised, as she didn't know any of this, but at the same time, she admires her little sister for making an effort. Meanwhile, the protagonist's mother asks Ju-young to take some food to the hospital that the woman prepared for Suho. The protagonist also goes to the hospital, and when she arrives at the boys' room, she catches them both in a bed. It turns out that Suho was trying to help Seo-jun get dressed. The girl took some comics so that Suho would have something to do to pass the time, and when she goes to collect one that fell on the floor, she ends up getting her hair tangled in the boy's clothes. At that moment, the protagonist's younger brother enters and says he won't disturb the couple's intimate moment. Then, the boys in their class approach, and as she still has her hair tied up, she hides under Suho's covers so that no one sees her. And when Ju-young is leaving, she ends up meeting Go-woon. The boy bothers her again, saying that he can only think about her, and so on. As soon as Seo-jun arrives, Ju-young discovers that the girl is not his girlfriend but rather his sister. Go-woon also finds out that Ju-kyung is the sister of her admirer. When Seo-jun manages to get rid of the boys, Ju-kyung decides to leave, but first signs Seo-jun's contract. At the protagonist's mother's salon, the professor went to touch up her eyebrows, and one of the woman's clients started talking about her single daughter when she discovered that the man was too. However, Jun-woo says he's not interested, and as soon as he leaves, Hee-kyung runs after him. The two go to a dark street, and when they start to get closer to kiss, Ju-young catches them, and his sister tries to distract the boy so he doesn't recognize the teacher. And the parents of this busy family fight once again because the man took a very expensive taxi ride he was going after that treasure boy, and in the end, it didn't do any good since he couldn't catch up with him. The next day, Hee-kyung tells her sister that she could pay for her makeup lessons so she wouldn't have to work, and she is proud to hear that she wants to try it herself. The teacher's co-worker saw the sisters talking and then went to the teacher, saying that she knows that his girlfriend is the sister of a student, who started to believe that the man favors the girl because of this. Meanwhile, the hurt boys are making up and helping each other. At school, Suwa decided to participate in an online beauty contest and decided to register Ju-kyung as well. At that moment, Hae-min takes photos of the protagonist from afar, and Soo-jin catches her doing so. When he asks her why, the girl makes an excuse and leaves. Later, when Ju-kyung goes to the hospital, Suho and her father are fighting in the room, so the girl and Seo-jun wait outside. The two end up listening to everything and learn that the biggest blame for all the things that happened lies with the boy's father. Suho vented to the man, saying that he blamed himself all this time for what Se-yeon did to himself, when in fact he should have blamed him for it. He says that he never expected much from his father since on the night his mother passed away, he was in bed with another mother. And the conversation is interrupted as Suho starts to have a panic attack. After his friend is medicated, Seo-jun is alone with his father and tells the man that Leo is actually his son and that if the man had been interested in him, he would have discovered it by just going to Suho's house. Later, Seo-jun helps his friend get some air outside the room and asks him why he never told him that he had never met Se-yeon. The boy thought that their friend had taken his life for Suho. I didn't believe him, but that didn't even happen. Then Suho explains that even if she had told Seo-jun, it wouldn't bring Se-yeon back to life. The next day, Suho's father made a statement. The man announced that the new song released was plagiarized and that he would leave his position as owner of the company. Soo-jin, upon reading about it, dropped the private class she was taking and went to the hospital after Suho. At the place, the girl came across him and Ju-kyung kissing. When Soo-jin returns home, her father slaps her in the face for leaving in the middle of class, and the girl doesn't say anything to him, she just goes to her room and locks herself inside. Suho was discharged from the hospital, and in the music room, he ended up finding something that had been there for some time, a letter that Se-yeon had hidden, written to Seo-jun and Suho, thanking them for their friendship and saying that he never felt more alone after he met them. Suho showed the letter to Seo-jun when the two went to visit their friend's grave together. Even though the letter reminds the boys of the grief of Se-yeon's departure, they still have a little fun. Seo-jun, as always, was hot-tempered with some guys who were passing by in the car after one of them threw a cigarette at him. So the two had to escape. Seo-jun even took Suho on his back to help him, but as none of them are 100% recovered, they ended up falling in a place where there was some manure and fertilizer, resulting in a smell. Too bad. The protagonist signed up for the makeup course she wanted so much. At Suho's house, when they are both taking a shower, Seo-jun comments that he thinks Ju-kyung doesn't want to say that the two are dating because of Soo-jin, despite having an idea of what the boy is doing. Speaking, the conversation is interrupted when the protagonist calls Suho. The next day, the boy goes to his girlfriend's house to accompany her on the bus and to school. On the way, he comments that they can tell her about the relationship when she is comfortable. Suho confesses that he was acting that way because he felt jealousy, but now it's gone. At school, Soo-jin seems to be doing some things on purpose to bother our protagonist, like taking the transfer girl with her to greet Ju-kyung. But it seems that the protagonist doesn't see this side of her friend and receives another surprise when she arrives in the classroom. The competition that Sua entered her in has Ju-kyung in second place and Se-mi in first. This makes the girl's heart start to race, and she asks Sua to get her out of this, but now that it's all posted and there's no way to delete it, Ju-kyung fears that the end of the lie about her face being beautiful is next. Later, Soo-jin goes to Suho and asks if they can talk in a more private place after class. The boy says that he will have commitments with his girlfriend and adds that he is Ju-kyung, but asks her not to tell the others yet because they are waiting for the right moment. Soo-jin then asks him why he told her, and Suho replies that it's because they are friends. At lunch, dear Soo-jin attacks again. She saved seats for her friends to sit with her, and when the protagonist notices, Hae-min is also at the table. Soo-jin comments on the name of the school the girl previously attended, and they ask if it wasn't the same as Ju-kyung's. Of course, the protagonist denies it. Then Hae-min asks if Ju-kyung really isn't the same as her old school, as she is very similar to the girl from there, and this makes the protagonist leave the table. In the bathroom, Soo-jin asks Hae-min if she was stupid or was acting out because she didn't see that the protagonist and Ju-kyung from her old school are the same people. At night, at the comic book store, the protagonist gives Suho several gifts that she managed to buy with her salary. And Go-woon ended up finding the cast he already took off his arm in Seo-jun's closet. The boy didn't put it away because of the signature Ju-kyung made. When Suho gets home, he puts away the gifts he received from his girlfriend and starts using one of them, which was a knitting kit, to de-stress. The next day, when she arrives at school, the protagonist discovers that she won that competition on social media, and the institution needs a new face for its advertisements, so to take advantage of Ju-kyung's victory, they invite her to do so. In the next scene, we see Ju-young getting dumped by Go-woon. The girl comments that he is like a fly to her that keeps bothering her at bedtime. And just as the protagonist is leaving school, the bullies from her old institution appear. They ask if the girl knows them and about Seo-jun, but they change their target when they see Hae-min. Ju-kyung decides to go to the girl and help her get out of there, claiming that they both need to do school work. And Soo-jin gets Se-mi's cell phone number when the protagonist is no longer around. Hae-min tells Ju-kyung when they are alone that she looks very beautiful with makeup and says that she won't tell anyone about her secret. When the girl realizes that the protagonist hasn't forgiven her because she never helped her, Hae-min explains that she was afraid they would do to her what they did to Ju-kyung. Meanwhile, to be sure, Suho asks Seo-jun what he meant about Soo-jin and the protagonist that day, and the boy tries to explain what he thinks it is, then helps Suho knit the correct form. Later, Suho meets with Jukyung and asks her if she's feeling okay. The girl ends up opening up about being scared that Hae-min will tell everyone the truth about her face. In the next scene, we see Soo-jin taking photos of Seo-jun after receiving a message from Saemi. When she opens the conversation with the girl, we see that if Soo-jin sent the boy's photos to her, Saemi would send others back to him, only from Jukyung, like he used to be. This awakens a doubt in Saemi, and soon the girl realizes that the Jukyungs are the same person. And Soo-jin ends up picking up the protagonist's necklace when she drops it without the girl knowing, and when she sees her looking for it, she doesn't say anything about it. Suho decides to look in a different place than where his girlfriend is so that she doesn't have to stay until night due to this, despite the boy telling her to forget the object and that everything was fine. Soo-jin approaches him and shows that she has the necklace, then throws it into the fire and reveals that she likes Suho, so the boy asks if she and Jukyung aren't best friends, and the girl replies that they will continue in case he doesn't like the protagonist. Soo-jin is willing to discard Jukyung if Suho insists on being with her. And she says more things, saying that she has been by his side for 10 years and that if she had confessed first, the boy would have chosen her. However, Suho denies it and says that it wouldn't make a difference, as he doesn't like her like that, and even with that response, Soo-jin tries to pull him in for a kiss, but our beautiful Suho doesn't let her and moves away. He buys another necklace for his loved one but doesn't tell her about it. He just says he'll help her look for it around the school and leaves it in a corner for her to find. Seo-jun also went to the place because he was worried that the protagonist would be alone at night and still looking for the accessory, but when he sees the two of them together, he leaves. The janitor who takes care of the school almost catches Suho and Jukyung. To hide, the two run to a room, and there they come across Hee-kyung and the teacher. Afterwards, the four of them go to dinner. The sisters wanted to know what each one was doing there, and the truths were put on the table. Meanwhile, Soo-jin meets the bullies from the protagonist's old school again. And the girls go to Jukyung's house. On the way, they pass Seo-jun, and he realizes that something is going on, so he doesn't let them move on. Saemi shows him a photo of the protagonist in her old school, but the boy doesn't care about her appearance and breaks Saemi's cell phone. Seo-jun says he can't control his anger when faced with bullies because it reminds him of what happened to his best friend and that if he catches her bullying Jukyung or anyone else, there will be consequences. The next day at school, everyone is talking about the protagonist when she passes by, and the girl doesn't understand what's happening until she gets to class. Suah approaches her, disappointed, and asks her if the person in the photos was really her. Someone made an article about Jukyung and exposed her old face. This triggers several feelings in the protagonist, who runs away crying. She even falls on the way, and Suho still doesn't know what's happening. He tries to help her, but Jukyung won't let her. All the friends she had made and who brought joy to her life seem to have turned against the protagonist. What did you think of these episodes? I hope you enjoyed the summary. Leave your suggestions in the comments and subscribe. If you liked the video, like and share to help me. Until next time.